kicked out and given only a rotten cattle shed, while my brother got a business empire. 3 years later, I bought their company. This is my ultimate revenge story. Before the story begins, please write in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so the Stories with Meaning channel can continue to grow and bring you even more powerful stories. The clinking of silverware against fine porcelain echoed sharply through the silent dining room. Outside, the city lights of New York City shimmered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. It was a familiar view from the 40th floor penthouse of the Harrington family, but tonight the beauty felt suffocating to Vanessa Harrington. The atmosphere at the dinner table was tense, colder than the air conditioner set to its lowest temperature. Margaret Harrington, the family matriarch and sole owner of Harrington Corporation, placed her napkin down with elegant precision. She looked at her 2 children in turn. Her gaze lingered briefly on Vanessa, her eldest daughter, who for the past 5 years had devoted her life as chief operating officer, repairing a failing system and increasing company profits by 200%. Then her eyes shifted to Ryan Harrington, her youngest son, who had just returned from studying overseas, studies that involved far more parties than libraries. "You both know why I gathered you tonight," Margaret said calmly, her voice carrying undeniable authority. Vanessa straightened her back. She had heard rumors about restructuring. She was ready. She had prepared an expansion plan into the eastern states. She believed tonight would be her coronation as CEO, replacing her mother who wished to retire. "I'm getting old," Margaret continued, signaling the maid to place 2 folders on the table. One was a thick, glossy black leather folder. The other was a thin, worn brown envelope. "Starting tomorrow, leadership of Harrington Corporation will change." Vanessa's heart pounded. "Ryan," Margaret said softly, pushing the black folder toward her son, "you will serve as CEO of Harrington Corporation. All commercial properties, shopping centers across the East Coast, and full control of headquarters are now your responsibility." Time seemed to stop. Vanessa felt the blood drain from her face. "No, Mom," she said shakily. "Ryan just got back. He doesn't understand operations. I handle investor negotiations." "That's enough, Vanessa," Margaret cut in coldly. "Ryan is a man. He carries the family name. This company needs a strong male face as its leader." Ryan chuckled, opening the folder casually, as if he had just received a dinner menu. "Relax, sis. If I ever need advice, maybe about curtain colors for the office, I'll call you." Then Margaret slid the worn brown envelope toward Vanessa, as though reluctant to touch it. "And for you, Vanessa, I haven't forgotten you. I know you like hard work." Vanessa took the envelope. It felt rough and dusty. "It's the deed to Green Valley Ranch, located in Willow Creek, Colorado. Your late father bought it years ago as a hobby. It's been neglected. I'm giving you full management rights. Consider it your own company." "A ranch?" Vanessa whispered in disbelief. "You want me to raise cattle while Ryan gets the empire I built?" "Don't be ungrateful," Margaret snapped. "It's a large property. If you're truly as capable as you claim, you'll manage. Or would you prefer I give you nothing at all?" Ryan laughed again, cutting his steak. "Perfect fit, sis. You're stiff and boring anyway. Herding cows might build some muscle." Vanessa looked at her mother, the woman she had tried so hard to impress with honors, degrees, and 18-hour workdays. In her mother's eyes, she was nothing more than a placeholder. The pain wasn't about money, it was betrayal. Vanessa stood, legs trembling, forcing herself upright. "Fine," she said softly. "Thank you for the gift, Mom. Congratulations, Ryan. I hope your shoulders are strong enough to carry the burden I've been holding." She turned and walked out. Behind her, wine glasses clinked. They toasted over the ruins of her dignity. That night, Vanessa left with nothing but a suitcase. No company car, no driver. She took a rideshare to the train station, then a night bus heading deep into rural Colorado. At 2 a.m., the bus dropped her at a dark intersection. 2 miles that way, the driver said. Old Ranch Road. Rain poured as she dragged her suitcase through mud and darkness. Finally, she reached a decaying wooden gate, Green Valley Ranch. The house was abandoned, leaking, and smelled of mold. This was her kingdom now. "All right," she whispered into the darkness. "We start from zero." Morning revealed the truth. The ranch was dying. Overgrown weeds, collapsing barns, starving cattle. Only 12 cows remained out of 50. A frail old man appeared, holding a rusted sickle. I'm George Miller, caretaker, or gravekeeper, really." He handed her unpaid bills. Feed debt, $3,200. Utilities overdue, $900. Unpaid workers' wages, $600. Nearly $7,000 in short-term debt alone. Her mother hadn't given her an asset. She'd given her a ticking bomb. Vanessa stared at the skinny cow, chewing dry straw weakly. The cow stared back at her, large watery eyes trembling with exhaustion. Vanessa felt a strange connection. She and these cows were the same, both left to starve while their resources were drained by parasites in the city. "Gather all workers at 10 a.m. sharp," Vanessa ordered, "this morning." George Miller frowned. "What for, miss? We don't even have money to pay them." "Just gather them. I need to talk." Vanessa turned back toward the old house. She needed coffee and strategy. Retreat was not an option. Going back to the city and begging Ryan? She would rather die buried under cow manure. Inside the dim bedroom, Vanessa opened her large suitcase. She pulled out a velvet jewelry box hidden beneath piles of clothes. Her future savings. A diamond necklace, her 25th birthday gift, a vintage Rolex she bought with her first executive bonus, several gold bracelets. She also took out her designer handbags, Chanel, Hermes, Louis Vuitton. Once, these items were symbols of status among New York's elite socialites. Now, they were survival tickets. She photographed them with poor lighting on the porch and uploaded them to luxury resale groups. She contacted several high-end pre-owned dealers. Urgent sale. Need cash today. Below market price. Her chest ached, not because she loved the items, but because she knew how weak her bargaining position was. That afternoon, her phone buzzed. Transfer received. $10,500. Far below market value, but enough to breathe. Then her screen lit up with a name she despised. Ryan Harrington. Vanessa stared at it for a long moment before answering. "Hello, Mrs. Rancher," Ryan laughed loudly. Music thumped in the background. He was clearly in a nightclub. "So, how's the smell of cow crap? Fragrant enough?" "What do you want, Ryan?" Vanessa asked flatly. "Just sharing good news. My new office renovation is finished. Your old room? Completely redone. I tossed that old teak desk, Dad's desk, and replaced it with imported marble. Much classier." Vanessa closed her eyes. "That's nice," she replied calmly. "Oh, and Mom said, if you can't pay your electricity bills out there, just let us know. We'll send candles." "Ha ha ha." Laughter erupted behind him. Vanessa's voice dropped cold, sharp. "Enjoy your party. Enjoy your marble. Spend Mom's money while you can. Because when I come back, I promise, you won't even have a chair to sit on." She hung up before Ryan could respond. Her phone landed hard on the bed. Breathing heavily, Vanessa grabbed a notebook and pen, walked outside, and sat on the collapsing porch facing the vast weed-filled land. She began writing, not complaints, but plans. SWOT analysis, Green Valley Ranch. Strengths, large land area, natural water source, fertile soil if managed properly. Weaknesses, damaged infrastructure, low-skilled labor, minimal capital. Opportunities, rising demand for organic dairy, agro-tourism trends. Threats, debt, livestock disease. She crossed out traditional cattle farming. Then she wrote in bold capital letters, Integrated Smart Farming. She wouldn't compete with traditional ranchers. She would bring corporate intelligence to rural land. Efficiency, technology, quality. She grabbed a handful of wet soil and crushed it in her fist. You thought you dumped me in a landfill. You were wrong. You just gave me land to grow your destruction. The next day, the remaining workers, Ethan, Mike, and Carl, arrived at 10:01 a.m., smoking casually and eyeing Vanessa with mockery. She stood waiting in work clothes, a plain t-shirt, cargo pants, and rubber boots she bought at the local market before dawn. "Late morning, Miss City," Carl smirked. Vanessa didn't smile. "I checked your attendance records over the past year," she said, opening George Miller's notebook. "Average work time, 4 hours a day. Cows left unwashed, feed logs often delayed." "Well, wages were delayed too," Mike laughed. Vanessa pulled out a thick stack of cash. Their eyes lit up instantly. "This is your unpaid salary, fully settled." She handed the money to George to distribute. Then she continued, "Now that your rights are fulfilled, I demand responsibility. Starting today, work begins at 6 a.m. Barns are cleaned twice daily. Feed logs must be recorded by the gram." "That's too much," Ethan protested. "We're villagers, not factory robots." "Then you're free to leave," Vanessa cut in sharply. "The gate is right there. I don't need lazy people." Carl tossed his cigarette away. "I'm out. Who'd work like a slave in a collapsing barn anyway?" Carl and Mike left with their money. Ethan hesitated. I need this job, ma'am," he said quietly. "My wife's about to give birth." "If you follow my rules, you stay," Vanessa said. Ethan nodded. "I can do it." That day became Vanessa's first experience of physical hell. Her once soft hands shoveled manure. She scrubbed mossy floors and hauled rotten waste. The ammonia stung her lungs, but she endured it. That evening, chaos erupted. "Miss, the spotted cow, she's giving birth, breech position," George shouted. No veterinarian was available. Vanessa rolled up her sleeves. She had no medical training, but she remembered anatomy books from college. She reached inside, adjusted the calf's position, and, after 30 exhausting minutes, the calf slid out. Not breathing. "Dead," Ethan whispered. "Not yet," Vanessa snapped. She cleared the airway, rubbed its chest. "Breathe. You don't get to die on my first day." 1 second. 2. The calf coughed, then inhaled. Vanessa collapsed into the dirty straw, soaked in blood and sweat. But when she saw the calf struggling to stand, something warm bloomed in her chest, something she never felt signing million-dollar contracts. "What do we name her?" George asked, smiling toothlessly. Vanessa looked at the calf. "Born in ruins. Survived crisis. Hope," she said softly. 3 months later, Willow Creek, Colorado looked different. Solar panels gleamed atop renovated barns. Fiber optic cables ran through fields. Digital beeps mixed with the lowing of cattle. Vanessa had turned Green Valley Ranch into a smart farm. George scratched his head, staring at an orange sensor collar on a cow. "This cow dressed like she's going to a wedding," he muttered. Vanessa smiled, holding her tablet. "This detects body temperature, feeding patterns, and movement 24/7. She showed him the graphs. "See this spike? Early-stage mastitis. She looks fine, but data says otherwise." George checked manually. His face turned serious. "Damn, you're right." That's the power of technology. Treat now, $5 injection. Wait until tomorrow, we lose thousands in milk production. The story of digital cows spread fast. At the local diner, farmers laughed. "Cows online now?" the town mayor scoffed while playing dominoes. But Vanessa only smiled. They were laughing at the future.
"Livestock is about instinct," one of the villagers scoffed. "You raise animals with feeling, not computers." Vanessa Harrington didn't care. She recruited 2 unemployed local youths, graduates of a vocational high school in computer networking, who had long been labeled as burdens because they spent their days gaming at the night watch post. Under Vanessa's leadership, they became her most reliable technicians. They eagerly managed servers, calibrated systems, and ensured the automated feeders ran precisely on schedule. The revolution was real. Feed usage dropped 15% thanks to zero waste from the auto feeders. Milk production increased as the cows' stress levels decreased. The foul stench of the barns vanished after waste was processed into biogas. That night, Vanessa sat on the porch of the old house, whose leaking roof she had finally patched. She stared at her laptop. 3rd month report. Operational break-even achieved. She wasn't making massive profits yet, but she was no longer bleeding money. She was no longer burning through her savings. "Wait for me, Mom," Vanessa murmured, sipping strong black coffee made by George Miller's wife. "I'm just warming up." Far away from the fresh air of Willow Creek, Colorado, the atmosphere on the 40th floor of Harrington Corporation headquarters felt artificial and suffocating. Ryan Harrington lounged in the oversized CEO chair, feet propped arrogantly on the imported marble desk he loved to brag about. Standing before him was Henry Collins, the chief financial officer who had served the company for over 20 years, since the days of Ryan's late father. "So, Mr. Collins," Ryan said lazily, twirling his Mont Blanc pen, "you're saying we can't sponsor my friend's car racing event? Our logo would be on the hood. That's cool, right?" Henry exhaled slowly. "Sir, our cash flow is tight. Retail sales dropped 10% this quarter due to the sudden marketing strategy changes you approved. We need reserves to pay suppliers, not to sponsor races." Ryan slammed his foot down. "You're so rigid. My marketing strategy is rebranding, modernizing. You don't understand young people." "Sir," Henry replied carefully, "dismantling the existing marketing team and replacing them with influencers who don't understand the product was a fatal mistake. Inventory is piling up because—" "Enough!" Ryan shouted, pointing at the older man. "You're the boss here. You're just an employee. If you can't follow my vision, you're free to leave. I'll find a more flexible CFO." Henry looked at him, deeply disappointed. "Very well, Mr. Harrington. I resign. But remember this. This company grew because of discipline, not style." He placed his ID badge on the desk and walked out. That evening, Ryan complained to Margaret Harrington at their luxury residence. "He's outdated, Mom. He kept rejecting my brilliant ideas," Ryan whined while a maid peeled grapes for him. Margaret nodded distractedly while selecting silk fabric for a charity gala. "Let him go. You studied abroad. You know better. Besides, Henry was always Vanessa's man. Maybe he wanted to sabotage you." "That's it." Ryan snapped his fingers. "He was spying. Good riddance." Margaret paused. "Has Vanessa ever called asking for money?" "Nope. It's been 3 months. Probably too proud. Or maybe she married some goat farmer just to survive." Ryan burst into laughter. Margaret smiled faintly, but unease crept into her heart. Vanessa's silence disturbed her. Cast-off children usually crawl back. Vanessa had vanished. At Harrington Corporation, Ryan appointed his friend, an amateur stock speculator, as the new CFO. Their first decision was to slightly falsify financial reports to make the company appear healthier, securing a massive bank loan for an ambitious luxury apartment project. A hairline crack had formed in the skyscraper's foundation. Back in Willow Creek, 6 months after Vanessa's arrival, a milk tanker from Willow Creek Dairy Cooperative arrived to collect the usual supply. The driver handed her a price sheet with a sour expression. "Price dropped again, miss. $0.28 per liter. Market's slow." Vanessa glanced at the paper, then at her stainless steel tank filled with 130 gallons of fresh milk. She laughed coldly. My feed cost alone is 25 cents per liter. Do you think I'm running a charity? What choice do you have? The driver shrugged. Everyone accepts it. If you don't sell, the milk spoils. Classic middleman pressure. Vanessa smirked. You can leave. From today on, Green Valley Ranch stops supplying Khalid Turner. The driver gaped. You're crazy. Close the gate, George. The truck left in anger. George Miller turned pale. Miss, what will we do with the milk? We don't sell bulk milk, Vanessa said, walking towards the used pickup truck she had recently bought. Ice-cooled milk barrels sat in the back. I'm heading to the county city. Guard the ranch. She drove 2 hours to Summit Ridge, a mountain tourist area, to an artisanal cheese factory, Summit Artisanal Cheese Co., owned by an Italian-American cheesemaker named Marco Bellini. Vanessa knew the place from her former elite life. Marco often complained about the lack of A-grade milk in the U.S. market. At first, Marco was skeptical. Many ranchers come to me, miss. Their milk has low fat and high bacteria. Useless for premium cheese. Vanessa placed a milk sample bottle and her tablet on his desk. Don't believe me, believe the data. She opened her cattle monitoring app. Nutrition, health, hygiene, real time. Total bacterial count under 100,000 CFU. Fat 4.2%, protein 3.5%. Pure. No water dilution. Marco's eyes widened. He tasted the raw milk. Creamy, naturally sweet, clean. He laughed. This is white gold. I offer an exclusive contract, 130 gallons per day at $0.75 per liter. I'll give you $0.8. Or I take this data to your competitor across the road. Marco laughed and shook her hand. You're dangerous, Miss Harrington. Deal. That day, Vanessa returned with a contract worth thousands of dollars per day. She shared bonuses with George, Ethan, and the workers. The village buzzed. So we can be rich without middlemen? Vanessa wasn't just selling milk. She was selling hope, dismantling a monopoly that had strangled the village for decades. Success attracts flies. Khalid Turner, furious over losing his best supply, began plotting. But the greatest threat came not from humans, it came from nature. In the 9th month, alarming messages spread through ranchers' WhatsApp groups. Foot and mouth disease outbreak in the neighboring county. Highly contagious. Deadly. Panic swept Willow Creek. Miss Vanessa, Ethan ran towards the house. 3 cows at Jacob Smith's ranch tested positive, foam in their mouths. Vanessa stiffened. The ranch was only 0.6 miles away. Sound the emergency bell, she ordered coldly. Total lockdown. She enforced high-level biosecurity protocols learned from international journals. No outsiders allowed. Mandatory disinfectant showers, special clothing and chemical-soaked boots. Feed quarantined. No grass within 3-mile radius. Villagers mocked her paranoia. Overreacting, they said. A week later, terror became real. Cows collapsed across the village. Farmers cried as they buried their animals. The local economy froze. Turner's trucks stopped coming. Only Green Valley Ranch stood firm. One night, torches appeared at Vanessa's gate. Villagers gathered, led by the same mayor who once mocked her. Please, the mayor said hoarsely, medicines are gone. Our cows are dying. You have supplies, don't you? Vanessa stood behind the locked gate. Healthy cows chewed calmly behind her. She could have refused. Instead, she said firmly, no one enters. Too risky. Anger stirred, but she continued, I'll send my technicians out. We'll supply disinfectants, vitamins, herbal immune boosters, and I'll call Marco. He has access to the best veterinarians in the state. That night, Green Valley Ranch transformed from a fortress into a command center. The outbreak lasted 2 months. Many cows died, but Willow Creek recorded the lowest mortality rate in the county. When it ended, Vanessa was no longer the discarded city woman. She was a leader. Yet on a distant hill, a black car occasionally parked, watching through binoculars. Khalid Turner wasn't done. 1 year after being cast out, Vanessa sat in her now air-conditioned ranch office. A glass of warm milk, her own product, rested beside her laptop. She pressed enter on the annual financial report. Net profit, $850,000. It was nothing compared to Harrington Corporation's billion.
This was clean money. Money earned from sweat, cow manure, and intelligence, without deceit, without nepotism. With that money, Vanessa Harrington could have bought a new car to replace the luxury vehicle she once owned, but she didn't. Instead, she called an industrial equipment supplier. "Hello, I'd like to order 1 milk pasteurization unit with a 1,000-liter capacity, along with an automated bottling machine," Vanessa said calmly. "Yes, I'll pay in full, cash." Vanessa no longer wanted to sell raw materials. She was going to produce finished goods, bottled milk under the Green Valley brand. She was ready to enter the retail market head-to-head against the dairy industry giants. Meanwhile, in New York City, Ryan Harrington was breaking out in a cold sweat inside his luxurious office. The central air conditioning failed to cool his rising panic. "What do we do, man?" Ryan said to his new CFO. "The loan matures next week. We have no cash." The luxury apartment project he'd bragged about had stalled. Its environmental permits were rejected. Ryan had forgotten to bribe the right officials, or maybe he'd been scammed. The bank loan money was gone, spent on a sports car down payment, extravagant launch parties, and executive bonuses. "Just borrow again," his friend said lightly. "Cover one hole by digging another." "We can't," Ryan snapped. "Our blacklisted. Our debt ratio is insane, and my mother must not find out. She could have a heart attack." Ryan chewed his nails nervously. "There's one way," his friend whispered, sliding over a plain black business card with gold lettering, no logo. "Private bridge financing. Interest 15% per month. Fast disbursement, no collateral, just the CEO's signature." It was a high-level loan shark disguised as an investment firm. Ryan stared at the card. He imagined his mother's disappointment. He imagined Vanessa laughing at him in his mind. "Fine," Ryan said, snatching the card. "Set up the meeting tonight. As long as the money clears tomorrow, I'll sign anything." At the very same time, in Willow Creek, Colorado, Vanessa was signing a stone plaque for the inauguration of a new building. Willow Creek Young Farmers Training Center. 2 signatures were placed almost simultaneously, one on a debt agreement that would tighten like a noose, the other on a monument that would shape the future. The wheel of fate spun faster. 3 years may be a short time in history, but it is eternity for transformation. Willow Creek was no longer the same. The rocky dirt road that once made Vanessa's car skid had been replaced by smooth asphalt, lined with neatly trimmed hedges. Artistic banners waved along the entrance. "Welcome to Green Valley Agritourism, the taste of pure nature." Saturday morning, 10 a.m. The parking area of Green Valley Ranch, now as large as a football field, was packed with cars from out of town. Denver, Seattle, Los Angeles. Bus lines lined up neatly, unloading excited schoolchildren for educational tours. At the center stood a magnificent yet grounded main building. Its architecture blended modern industrial design with rustic American countryside elements. Large glass panels revealed rolling green hills behind it. This was no longer just a cowshed. It was an empire.
Vanessa Harrington walked down the corridor of Green Valley Cafe, her own cafe serving dairy products straight from the ranch. She wore a cream-colored linen blazer, elegant yet practical, paired with comfortable low heels. Her hair, once hastily tied back while shoveling manure, was now styled into a sharp, professional bob. "Good morning, Miss Harrington." The baristas and staff greeted her warmly. She returned each greeting personally. She paused at table 1, where a couple enjoyed milk gelato and artisanal cheese produced by Green Valley. "How's the cheese?" Vanessa asked kindly. "Incredible," the husband replied enthusiastically. "I thought this was imported from Europe. Turns out it's local, creamy, rich, but not overwhelming." Vanessa smiled with pride. "Thank you. The milk was collected this morning and processed just hours ago, fresh from farm to table." She continued upstairs to her private office. The hallway walls were filled with awards. Best Sustainable Agribusiness 2027, Top 30 Women in Business, Certified Exporter to Japan and Singapore. Inside, a journalist from Forbes America waited. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Vanessa said, shaking hands. "No problem," the journalist smiled. "I was amazed by the souvenir shop downstairs." "Let's get to the point," he continued. 3 years ago, you were a real estate tycoon's daughter, exiled to this rural town. Now, Green Valley's valuation is predicted to rival your family's parent company. What's your secret?" Vanessa leaned back, glancing out the window. From there, she could see lush pastures where healthy Holstein cows grazed, surrounded by fully booked luxury glamping tents. "The secret is simple," she said calmly. "I stopped trying to become what others wanted and started listening to what this land needed. When I arrived, this place was dying from greed. I healed it with systems, discipline, and heart, and somehow God repaid every good deed in full." "And your relationship with Harrington Group?" the journalist pressed. "Rumors say they're in free fall." Vanessa's smile thinned into a cold, firm line. "I have no business ties with entities that lack integrity. Green Valley stands on its own." While the sun shone brightly over Green Valley Ranch, dark clouds hung over the skyscrapers of Harrington Group in New York City. Half the cubicles were empty, not due to remote work, but mass layoffs. Whispers filled the break room about delayed salaries. In the CEO's office, Ryan Harrington sat pale and hollow-eyed. Empty liquor bottles littered the marble desk he once bragged about. Bang! The door burst open. 3 large men in black leather jackets stormed in. "Mr. Harrington," the largest one said coldly, "your deadline passed 24 hours ago. Our boss doesn't like waiting." Ryan trembled. "Please, tell Mr. Black Dragon I just need 1 more week. The apartment assets are being sold." "They're disputed. The land title is fake. Don't lie to us," the man snapped, slamming the desk. "This is a seizure order. Your house in Greenwich, your cars, and the land registered under Margaret Harrington's name that you illegally mortgaged. Our team arrives tomorrow. Vacate willingly or we'll do it our way." Ryan collapsed into his chair. He had committed an unforgivable sin, forging his mother's signature to secure the family home for his gambling debts and luxury lifestyle. That evening, Margaret Harrington enjoyed afternoon tea in her garden, ignoring Ryan's non-stop calls. Then a maid came running. "Ma'am, at the gate!" Margaret froze. A massive orange seizure notice was plastered across her iron vate. "Property under court seizure." She screamed hysterically, clawing at the sticker. Moments later, a black sedan stopped. Ryan stepped out, broken. She grabbed his collar. "Explain this! Where is Harrington Group? Where are the profits you promised?" Ryan collapsed to his knees. "It's over, Mom. Everything is gone. The company is bankrupt. This house has been seized." Margaret's world spun. She collapsed unconscious before the gates of her fallen palace. 3 hours later, Margaret woke up in a crowded ER. Her VIP insurance had been canceled, premiums unpaid by Ryan. On a nearby table lay an abandoned business magazine. Her eyes locked onto the cover. "Vanessa Harrington," she whispered. "Ryan, that's your sister." Ryan turned away, jealousy burning. "Take me there," Margaret ordered suddenly. "We go to Willow Creek, now." "But Mom, we don't even have a car." "Rent one, borrow, take a bus, I don't care. We must see Vanessa before we become homeless." 3 years ago, Vanessa traveled this road in tears. Today, Margaret and Ryan Harrington traveled it in a cheap rental car, its broken AC blowing nothing but despair.
After 6 exhausting hours on the road, they finally arrived at the gates of Green Valley Ranch Agrotourism. Margaret Harrington's eyes widened in disbelief. She clearly remembered the asset report from 3 years ago. Barren land, crumbling buildings, a failing operation. But what stood before her now was a majestic automated gate, a professional security post guarded by uniformed officers, and a long line of visitor vehicles waiting to enter. This can't be the place," Ryan Harrington muttered, stunned. They attempted to drive in, but were stopped at the checkpoint. A broad-shouldered man in a dark blue safari-style uniform stepped forward. It was Ethan. Once a skinny village youth whose wife had been about to give birth, now he was the head of security at Green Valley Ranch. His body was solid, his gaze sharp and authoritative. "Good afternoon," Ethan said professionally. "Do you have an online reservation?" Ryan rolled down the window of the cheap rental car. "Don't you recognize me? I'm Ryan Harrington, Vanessa's brother. Move aside, I'm going in." Ethan narrowed his eyes. He recognized that arrogant face, the face of the man who once made his boss cry. Still, Ethan remained calm. "I'm sorry, sir. Our procedure requires reservations, and Miss Vanessa Harrington is currently in a meeting." "You insolent village guard!" Margaret barked from the passenger seat. "I am her mother. How dare you block the owner of this place?" Ethan smiled faintly. "The owner of this property is Miss Vanessa Harrington, ma'am, and her instructions are clear. Every guest must register. Please wait here. I'll contact her secretary." They were deliberately left waiting in the VIP parking area for 30 minutes. Around them, tourists strolled casually in expensive outfits, carrying shopping bags filled with Green Valley dairy products. The irony hit hard. Others came here for leisure. They came here to beg. Eventually, the gate opened, but instead of being escorted to an office, they were led to the main residence, now renovated into a stunning philanthropic-style estate, surrounded by koi ponds and orchid gardens. They stepped out of the car awkwardly. Their clothes were wrinkled and cheap. Ryan wore only a faded polo shirt and jeans. Margaret wore a house dress covered by a cardigan, far removed from her former socialite image. Then Vanessa Harrington stepped out from the front door. She had just finished her evening shower, dressed casually yet unmistakably high-end. Her face looked fresh, unburdened. She stood on the elevated terrace, gazing down at her mother and brother below the steps. The symbolism was unmistakable. "Mrs. Harrington? Ryan?" Vanessa said flatly. No hug, no affectionate greeting. "Vanessa, my daughter," Margaret said theatrically, opening her arms with a forced smile. "My goodness, you've changed so much. Why haven't you come home?" Vanessa didn't move. "I'm busy working," she replied calmly. "Managing an abandoned ranch takes 24 hours a day." She deliberately emphasized the words Margaret had once used against her. Ryan's eyes roamed greedily across the property.
luxury SUVs in the garage, vast land. His mind raced. If this were sold or mortgaged, my debts would vanish. "Wow," Ryan laughed nervously, trying to sound friendly. "Never thought your magic touch could turn a forgotten wasteland into a gold mine." "Come inside," Vanessa cut him off. "Dinner's ready, we'll talk there." The dining room was warm, illuminated by artistic copper chandeliers. A long, reclaimed wood table held an extravagant spread: Wagyu steaks from Green Valley cattle, carbonara with homemade cheese, fresh organic salad. Yet the atmosphere was colder than the Arctic. Only the clinking of cutlery broke the silence. Margaret ate ravenously. She clearly hadn't had a proper meal in days. Ryan ate cautiously, constantly watching Vanessa, searching for an opening. "Your chef is excellent," Margaret said, dabbing her mouth. "This reminds me of our glory days before the global crisis." Vanessa raised her eyebrow, slicing her steak calmly. "I've read the economic reports, Mother. GDP is growing at 5%. The crisis isn't global, it's Harrington Group." Margaret nearly choked on her drink. That's because old management left too many problems." Ryan rushed in, as always, deflecting blame. "I tried, Vanessa. The property market collapsed. You're lucky you chose food. People always need to eat." "Lucky?" Vanessa set down her knife. "You call waking up at 3 a.m. every day for 3 years luck? You call sleeping in cow sheds during a disease outbreak luck?" "Enough," Margaret interrupted, her eyes sharp with calculation. "The past is the past. We're family. Blood is thicker than water." She placed her hand over Vanessa's. Vanessa didn't pull away, but her hand stiffened. "Listen, Vanessa." Margaret softened her voice, the manipulative tone Vanessa knew too well. "Things in New York are difficult. Your brother just needs a little help." "A little help?" Vanessa echoed. "Yes," Ryan jumped in eagerly. "We merge Green Valley Ranch into Harrington Group as a subsidiary. With assets like this, our valuation skyrockets. We can get new bank loans to cover old debts." He smiled greedily. "I'll even appoint you director of agribusiness. Big salary. You can come back to New York." Vanessa stared at him in disbelief. Bankrupt, hunted by debt collectors, yet still offering her a subordinate role in a sinking empire. "So," Vanessa said slowly, "you didn't come here because you missed me. You came because you need my assets as collateral for your debts." Margaret hurried to add, "This is about saving the family name. What would people say if Harrington Group collapses while your daughter thrives in a rural town?" She began to cry, crocodile tears. "Our house has been seized, Vanessa. Where am I supposed to sleep?" The act had always worked before, but not tonight. Vanessa stood up, wiped her mouth, and walked to a cabinet. She retrieved a thick blue folder and threw it onto the table right in front of Ryan. "Read it." Ryan opened it hesitantly. His eyes bulged. "How did you get this?" he stammered. "I bought it," Vanessa replied coldly. "Information is expensive, Ryan, but I can afford it." She circled the table like a shark. Page 5. Embezzlement of $3.5 million from the Chikarong project for online gambling and luxury spending. She didn't even look at the pages, she had memorized them. Page 12, financial fraud to deceive banks. That's a felony. 10 years in prison. Page 20, total debt to multiple payday lenders and 3 major loan sharks. The interest alone exceeds your remaining assets. Margaret snatched the folder, trembling as she read. "Gambling?" she whispered in horror. "You said the money was for bribes."
Ryan stayed silent, drenched in cold sweat. Then Vanessa's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You came into the house I built with blood and tears, asking me to sacrifice everything to patch the rot you created yourselves." Margaret tried to grab Vanessa's hand. "Please, I didn't know he was this bad. He's your only brother. If you don't help him, the loan sharks might kill him." Vanessa brushed her hand away, gentle but final. "No." The word echoed. "What?" Margaret gasped. "I said no. No merger, no loans, not $1. "You heartless!" Ryan exploded, slamming the table. "You want us destroyed? You want your mother homeless!" Vanessa roared back, her voice thunderous. "I survived when you threw me away." Ryan shrank back. For the first time in her life, Vanessa screamed at her family. 3 years ago at a table like this, you laughed when you gave me this barren land. You took everything. You let me ride public buses. You let me starve." She pointed at Ryan. "You promised to send candles when I couldn't pay electricity. Now the lights here shine bright, and yours are about to go out." She turned to her mother. "And you, who worshipped an incompetent son for status, enjoy your choices." She pressed the intercom. "Ethan, dining room." The grand ballroom of the Grand Mahakam Hotel, Manhattan, was filled with sharks in tailored suits. The air was heavy with expensive cologne, ambition, and speculative tension. Today was the long-awaited auction of seized assets belonging to Harrington Group, an event eagerly anticipated by competitors who were ready to tear apart the remnants of a fallen dynasty. The primary asset on the block was monumental: the former Harrington Group headquarters skyscraper on Park Avenue, along with the remaining legacy brands still attached to it. At the back row sat a woman wearing oversized black sunglasses and a silk shawl that partially concealed her face. Vanessa Harrington was not present as a conspicuous bidder, but as a silent observer. Beside her sat a calm, middle-aged man, George Miller, the former chief financial officer who had once been fired by Ryan Harrington. Now, George served as Vanessa's director of investment strategy. "Bidder number 08 offers $15 million. Any higher?" shouted a representative from a real estate conglomerate, a longtime rival of the Harrington family. The numbers climbed. Vanessa remained still, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She knew the true value of the building. Its worth was emotional, symbolic, but financially, it was rotten to the core. $20 million, another bidder yelled. The room buzzed. That was a steep price for a bankrupt empire. George leaned toward Vanessa and whispered, "Miss Harrington, based on our analysis, the safe ceiling is $22 million. Anything above that, we lose." Vanessa gave a slight nod. "Wait until they're out of breath, George. Strike in the final second." The bidding slowed at $21 million. The auctioneer raised his gavel. $21 million. Once? Twice? $21.5 million. George's voice cut through the silence. He raised bidder paddle number 18. All eyes turned toward him. Whispers rippled through the room. Some recognized his face, but no one knew who he represented. "Bidder 18, on behalf of which entity?" the auctioneer asked. "Green Valley Corporation," George answered firmly. The name was foreign to the ears of Manhattan's property elites. Green Valley? What company was that? Agricultural holdings? Dairy? Ranching? $21.5 million. Any further bids? Silence. The remaining competitors withdrew. The number was simply too risky for a poisoned asset. $21.5 million, sold to Green Valley Corporation. The gavel struck. It sounded like a death sentence for the past and a birth bell for the future. As George stepped forward to sign the official documents, Vanessa removed her sunglasses. She stood and walked out with composed, unhurried steps. Several sharp-eyed business journalists noticed her. They gasped. "Isn't that Vanessa Harrington? The discarded daughter? Wait, Green Valley? Green Valley Ranch?" The next morning, the business headlines were no longer about bankruptcy. They screamed about a sensational takeover. The daughter returns. Vanessa Harrington buys back family empire with milk money. Vanessa hadn't just repurchased a building, she had reclaimed the dignity that had once been stolen from her. While Vanessa celebrated her victory in Manhattan, Ryan was running like a sewer rat on the outskirts of San Diego. After being expelled from Green Valley Ranch, Ryan and Margaret Harrington had briefly returned to New York, but threats from debt collectors and a police summons for fraud sent Ryan into panic. He made his final cowardly decision. He stole his mother's remaining jewelry, her last asset for survival, sold it on the black market, and fled alone, leaving Margaret asleep in a cockroach-infested motel room. "I'm sorry, Mom. I have to survive," Ryan whispered at dawn. He planned to flee out of state, maybe hide in Florida or escape illegally into Mexico. Now Ryan sat at San Diego Harbor, wearing a dirty cap and a face mask. He was waiting for a ferry bound for Seattle. His heart pounded every time he saw a police uniform. He was hungry. His money was nearly gone. All credit cards had long been blocked. A prince who used to eat $1,000 steaks now scavenged leftover boxed rice from a roadside diner. "Ryan." A deep voice called his name. He froze. Two large men in plain clothes stood behind him. Not police. Enforcers. The Dragon Boss's men. The loan shark Ryan had cheated. "No, I'm not Ryan." Ryan bolted, but his foot caught a rope. He fell face first onto the fish-stinking concrete. Before he could rise, a heavy boot crushed his back. "Hard to find you, young master," one thug laughed darkly. "Dragon Boss sends his regards. He says if the money's gone, your kidneys still sell well on the black market." Ryan screamed hysterically. "Help! Robbery!" The commotion drew harbor security and police patrols. Ryan felt relief. Better prison than being carved up, he thought. "Officer, arrest me! I'm a fraud! Arrest me now!" He clung to the officer's leg, sobbing. The officer frowned and spoke into his radio. "Command, DPO suspect Ryan Harrington located at harbor. Condition? Pitiful. Secured from loan sharks." That day, Ryan's arrest photo went viral, not as a powerful CEO, but as a skinny, filthy man crying like a child on the dock. His arrogance collapsed completely. 2 months later, at Rikers Island Detention Center, Vanessa sat in the VIP visiting room. She wore a simple yet elegant black dress. Separated by thick glass sat a man with a shaved head in an orange inmate uniform. Ryan looked 10 years older, gaunt face, sunken eyes, feral gaze. Seeing Vanessa, he grabbed the intercom. "Vanessa, thank God you came. You'll post bail, right? Get a top lawyer." "This place is hell. The food is rotten. I sleep on the floor. I get beaten." Vanessa listed her receiver calmly. "I didn't bring a lawyer, Ryan." Hope vanished from his face, replaced by rage. "Then why are you here? To mock me?" "I came to give you this." Vanessa pressed a photo against the glass. It showed Margaret sitting on the porch of a small, peaceful house, tending vegetables. Ryan froze. "She's alive?" "Of course she is. Even after you stole her last ring and abandoned her in a motel without $1. Ryan lowered his head. Shame finally surfaced. "I found her after she was evicted. She's safe now, but she doesn't want to see you. She said she no longer has a son." "That's because you poisoned her," Ryan accused. "No, your actions spoke loudly enough." Vanessa took the photo back. "I came only to ensure you understand this isn't bad luck. This is your harvest. You sowed arrogance, laziness, and deceit for 3 years. This is the fruit. Eat it." Ryan sobbed again, weak this time.
I can't survive 10 years. Humans adapt. I adapted in a cowshed. You can adapt in a rat cell. Consider it character school. Vanessa hung up. Goodbye, Ryan. Don't contact me again. She walked away as Ryan pounded the glass, screaming her name. The sound never reached her. To her, it was already a silent past. Willow Creek, Colorado. In a quiet corner of the valley stood a small white house, not luxurious, just modest. On the porch, Margaret Harrington sat in a rattan rocking chair watching the sunset. She no longer wore silk gowns, only a simple cotton dress. Her once styled hair was now gray and loosely tied. A black SUV stopped at the gate. Vanessa stepped out carrying grocery bags. "Vanessa," Margaret smiled faintly. Vanessa placed the groceries in the kitchen and sat across from her. "This is your monthly allowance," she said, placing an envelope on the table. "Enough for dignity, not extravagance. And your hypertension medication for next month." "Thank you, my child," Margaret whispered, eyes moist. "I heard you bought back your father's building." "Yes, Mom. It's now Green Valley Tower. All competent former employees have returned." Pride flickered. And pain. "May I someday visit the office?" Vanessa looked at her. "No, Mom." The words were firm, but not cruel. "I've forgiven you, but forgiveness isn't forgetting. Trust is glass. Once shattered, the cracks remain." Margaret wept silently. She had a house, but no home. 2 years later, Vanessa stood on the 40th floor of Green Valley Tower, once the penthouse dining room she'd been expelled from, now her minimalist CEO office. The city stretched beneath her. She felt ownership. The door opened. Ethan, who once was an unemployed village boy, now her executive assistant, entered. "The Japan video conference is ready. They're very interested in Smart Farming 2.0 from Willow Creek." "Good," Vanessa smiled. "And George Miller sends regards. Record calf births this month, highest ever. And your mother says her eggplants are ready." Vanessa paused. "Tell her thank you. Donate them to the village orphanage in my name." Vanessa gazed at her reflection. No longer a crying girl with a suitcase. She was a matriarch, forged by betrayal, cooled by tears.